Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lex Talk World Talk Show presented by ClickAway Creators. Today, we have advocate Josh J. Dalia, who, with 4+ years of experience in the legal tech space, is a partner at Palladium Legal. It's a global law firm. He is also an advisor at Zen Legal, a boutique law firm, along with having a robust independent legal practice. He's also a mentor who believes in the philosophy that a telling and positive difference to the world can be made together. Besides all things law, he's an avid sports enthusiast, foodie, and a techie. Hello, Mr. Josh. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you for asking. So,
Thank you for
Josh,
having me on the show.
oh, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure, Josh. Josh, before we dive deeper into your specializations and everything, please brief us about your legal journey, how it has been.
So, I have been born and brought up in Mumbai, and my legal journey also began, and has been through and through in going through Mumbai. I was in Mirabai College. Thereafter, I joined the law school of Mirabai College, and comes under the SVKM banner. And in about towards the end of my third year, I got an opportunity to join Mr. Haresh Jakyani, Senior Counsel, Bombay High Court, and his firm. And it was a great experience because post the first month, basically my internship was essentially for a month. But at the end of the month, they invited me to stay there for as long as I'd wish. And it so happened that that wish took me for 4 years at Mr. Haresh Jakyani's chambers. Thereafter, it's been a great journey because I ended up learning a lot from the practical side of things. Well, as a student, I was a very average student, a rank average student, as you may call it. My marks were never something very great. But the practical side of law is what took me and got me most interested into the thing. And that's where I think I started growing towards it together. And thereafter, I graduated. Post my graduation, I was absorbed in his firm, and thereafter I took the jump. And instead of joining a larger firm or going anywhere else, I decided of going individual, which against the general philosophy of having a lot of experience for starting your own practice. I decided to take an a shift on the same, and so far it's been great. It's been a great journey because I've met some wonderful people, got some great collaborations on the floor, and here I am.
That's wonderful to know, Mr. Josh. So, talking about your specialization, how do you look at commercial litigation in 2021 and how do you think it's going to change 5 years down the line?
Commercial litigation essentially, because of the impact of COVID, commercial litigation has changed in the dynamics, so to say that uh, litigation overall has also changed. When you look at essential physical hearings, the same has changed to virtual hearings. Now, from virtual hearings, it's now changing to hybrid hearings, where the counsels, their clients, essentially the litigants, the counsels, the judges, all have a synergy as far as choosing what stream do they want to take and what they feel is most appropriate. Because many a times, there is a kick in appearing physically before the judges. There is a special bond that one shares with the people who they are arguing before. And many a times it's just so convenient to, appear before one judge in another city in the morning and another judge in another city altogether in the afternoon session. These kind of things are only possible because of technology and the way things have joined in together. So essentially, commercial litigation has also changed and evolved to that effect because a lot more arbitration based matters, a lot more mediations, conciliations, disputes are being settled virtually through online dispute resolutions. And a lot of settlements, a lot of table talks are all happening virtually, where now you are able to share the documents and people are live working on the same. So I think, as far as I see, time is being saved a lot, and a lot more things are being done throughout the day, which earlier were not possible. And as far as commercial law in general is concerned, the entire dynamics of the 9 to 5 or the working schedules have changed. There is no dynamics as far as time is concerned. You People wake up with their laptop, people sleep after shutting down their laptops. It's this how it's evolved altogether, because now we are in a global world and you are able to access anywhere across the globe, speak with anywhere across the globe. So it's just a smooth working right now.
After talking about commercial litigation, in your introduction, I have mentioned that you're also a mentor to a lot of people. So, how has your experience been as a mentor?
Well, again, I started the entire mentorship thing early because I've learned a little something here and there, which I thought I should share with people who I can as far as possible. I've had people come into my office who I am training them to become better at what they're doing, because there is always some things like stage fright, things like how do you speak with a client, things like uh, how do I see the case law through various angles. Now, these are the things no textbook is ever going to be able to teach you. It's only something that you learn by watching people, by speaking with people who've already done it day in day out, and then know the ins and outs or kind of the technique that's required to get through, which is what I'm trying to share with people who are there with me. And hopefully we all grow in together. That's what my plan is in the long run.
I'm sure. I'm sure that is going to help a lot of people. Having said that, I'm coming on to my most favorite question. Please tell us about your most memorable cases and any key takeaways from there.
So in fact, my most memorable case has been during the time when I was a paralegal and I wasn't even graduated. So I was working with Mr. Harish Jatyani and his team on an important case against the beef ban in Maharashtra. And it was quite an interesting case because we had to dig in really deep because we were against the government, we were against the law, we were challenging the law. So it was a different dynamic altogether. It was a constitutional law experience like no other for me. And I was humbled and glad that I could have the same at a very young age. Because there were times when we were in court, and since this was a really marketable case, as far as I could say, it was always filled. The courtrooms were always filled. There were, you name the counsels, they were present there. You name the kind of important parties that are concerned, they were there. There was one particular occasion when I remember one of the advocates for in support of the beef ban, he stood up and went across everywhere and just placated a placard showing a big cow to show how the cultural impact of such a case could be. So the learnings were such that it's not just law, but you have to deal with so many different cultures, different dynamics then towards the end of the case. It was a great learning experience, and my key takeaway per se from that was that one can't limit themselves. You have to keep a very open because you don't know what the other side may strike you with, and it's just an evolution process.
In a way, you have to be really mindful as well of what you say and what might hurt or, trigger any.
Absolutely, absolutely, because a single word can be really hurtful towards one religion, towards one culture, which was absolutely harmless as far as the person saying it. But then it can, you know how these days things can be taken and blown off to any proportion.
Everything and anything.
Everything and anything can be blown off to any proportion. That's absolutely right.
All right. Jash, my last question, but at the same time, I'm sure that it's going to take a bit longer than the other questions. How do you see a synergy between law and technology?
Well, again, this takes me a little back with how the advent of COVID came in. Once the virus struck, we had a few bad episodes where I do remember one of the Bar Association presidents sharing a story with us. This was in Gujarat, where he was at his home. He, on a general basis, he ordered for something from Amazon, and the delivery person was somebody who he recognized. And when he spoke with him, that person ended up telling him it was a very hurtful story that because of the lockdown and because of not having a job, he had to get into the delivery business just so that he could support his family. This was where we had come down to. However, going a little forward, things improved. India really took on the technology. We took on the challenge. Not just the individuals, but the advocates also faced the issue. We also all took on the challenge. And what happened then is, since we weren't able to access the courts, but that didn't mean that we weren't able to access justice or to deliver the justice to the people who needed it. So with the advent of virtual technology and effects like Zoom, WebEx, all of them coming into play, the judges were able to sit where they were, the advocates were able to sit where they were. Nobody had to travel to one particular location, hodgepodge together, be together. What also happened was that now clients can also be part of it. Earlier, it was always like they would know that there's a case, it's their case, or they are a respondent party respondent to the matter. But now that they can actually appear and not maybe not speak, but they can definitely know what's happening in the case and have more control over the same, rather than being dependent on somebody telling them on an hearing basis as to what happened, because then they would always be clueless towards the end of it. And I think technology and law are slowly synerging together, because what that does is essentially opens up a lot more spheres. A lot more of my fellow advocates have gone into teaching virtually. They're doing this as a hobby virtually. What I did on my part was I took part of a particular program wherein we conducted an online Lok Adalat for the states of Rajasthan and the city of Delhi, rather than Union Territory of Delhi. And in a span of a month, we were able to resolve about 29,000 disputes. And it was a great feeling, because not many of those disputes were large, but many of them were for a few thousands, but and monetarily, but they were very important to the people who were there on the other side, who didn't have even those. They didn't have that money, so it was very important for them to reach some forum where a third party could hear them without any bias. And all this was happening virtually, hence nobody had to leave their homes. They could be on a phone call, they could be on the screen. It was very well done. And what ended up happening was that, the case in India, the way things function, we have a large backlog of cases. Each and every court, the new courts, the old courts, here the Supreme Court, all of them. So these kind of things really help reduce the burden to a small extent, but made a significant impact on the same. And where I see going forward is that now we are going to jump from a virtual world to an augmented reality world, wherein uh, technology is going to play such a role that I may not be physically present there, but I'll be having a holographic image of myself virtually present in a virtual setup of such a way that you actually feel that you're there. You could as good as feel that you're actually present over there. And that would bring about a synergy as to the defects, as I just mentioned that, a little while back, that there's a kick in appearing before the judges personally, having a personal share in the way, because body language matters, which is very important for people to see. And now those kind of things are coming up where you're going to be able to do things. Access to law, because of technology, access to law is changing a lot, as I also feel. And since I am working myself on a tech portal, we have another portal that we are coming up soon. But I know that for a fact that we access. So now somebody abroad in a country where there are many people abroad, Indians, of people of Indian origin who are abroad, and they have properties in India. They don't know whom to access, how to access. It's very difficult to get in touch, call somebody there, be dependent on somebody to find somebody and do that. Now they'll be able to directly get access to lawyers, qualified lawyers, and to teams having certain amount of percentage that they'll be paying up upfront, and they're rest assured that a professional lookout is happening towards the work that they are being given. So a good few things are in the work I see, and down the line I feel law and technology are merging together to a great effect for the general betterment of everybody. And access to all, the concept of access to all, justice to all, is really evolving, and it's really being put forward to right now. The government, the judiciary, and the officers of law, including us advocates, we are all going together to make sure that we can afford and rather offer the best that we all can in the advent of injury. Because as humankind, we all need to evolve, and I think this is the best form of evolution that I can see forward to.
Thank you so much for throwing light on that, Josh. But at the same time, when we are talked about all the good things between law and technology, what do you think can be a negative point here? Because as you mentioned, that body language is also very important, right? let's just say if this interview was taking place physically, the energy would have been like really different. It would have been more
Yeah.
of a conversation. It's still a conversation, but then it would have been really different from what it is now. So what can be a negative thing? I mean, if you can throw a light on that as well.
Well, you are right. Body language, the way, the energy, the entire thing of having somebody across the table, having face-to-face eye contact, conversation, those kind of public skills or those kind of speaking skills have been impacted. Further, I think India is still not absolutely ready as far as infrastructure is concerned for technology. We may still face certain glitches, and sometimes those glitches are so pertinent that meetings end, matters just get adjourned, whereas an important hearing was supposed to happen, but just because one of the councils is not able to log in for XYZ reason, he's just not able to show. Then recently, another rage came about on the thing where somebody, it was in another country. I don't have exact details of the same, but somebody was there and he did not know how to access or rather use the particular modem that he was using, and he ended up having an animal face shield on himself. Yeah, and the judges were really supportive. They were actually trying to explain to him how he has to remove it, but he just couldn't. So he was literally, there was a cat face essentially. I think it did become a meme. It became a big trend also, and
Oh my God.
basically no hearing happened that day. There was no. Poor chap was trying to say, "Your lordships, I'm not a cat. I'm a person. I'm actually talking. I am who I am." But this is what it is. So understanding of it, like few of us still really understand it that well. There are so many across the country, across the globe that have no understanding of this, and suddenly they've been thrown into this. So, understanding of the technology and using it the right way is very important, because now everything is happening globally. And since everything is happening globally, we are always vulnerable to things like hacks. And say, if now all my files, I have these files behind, but now I rarely have access to them, or rather rarely need them because everything's there on my cloud. I have access to them whenever I need to. But I do know that if at one point of time it's shut, say for any reason, I use OneDrive. If OneDrive stops for some time, I'm handicapped. Then I need to go back to my files, but not everything is there inside these files. So then I don't really have access. I'm stuck. So those are the kind of things which are there. There are good few things that are in the negative, where I wouldn't call them negatives exactly, but things that we need to work towards. But I actually do see the positives outweighing the negatives, because we are going. What has essentially happened is it's fast tracked India to the global stage. Now things like India was never a great arbitration center, but with online dispute resolution coming in, the Arbitration Act amending, the recent amendments coming into the picture, uh, more and more global advocates of law and arbitration and online dispute resolutions are choosing India and are looking at India as a space, because India still has immense potential. So that has brought us onto the global roadmap, which I think is, it has happened a good few years ahead of what it was supposed to happen. And I think that's a great thing, because now we know exactly where we can jump towards from this ball game. We've reached a good stage. We have a good benchmark set for us. And I think we can really grow. We can all grow together, great on a great stage together, and the country will grow with us, is what I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for answering my question, Josh. And again, for sharing such great insights with us.
Thank
At the
you.
same time, I'm really looking forward to having a chat with you again, maybe on some other trending topics in the international legal industry, because these days we really have a lot of things to discuss in the
Absolutely.
legal space. And for our viewers, if you really like this chat with Mr. Dalia, please like and share this video, and also subscribe to Click Away Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do, and you have more coming from industry leaders. This is Bharti for Lex Talk signing off. Take care. Bye bye.